It is Sunday morning, and you know what that means. It is time for yet another episode of the 2024 Draft Prospect Series on this channel, Why I Want. Last week we talked about the potential and probably guaranteed first overall pick, Canadian superstar Macklin Celebrini, and we went over the introductory thing as to what makes him a good prospect. Today we are responding with the American that most people for most of this year thought was gonna be second. But based off of certain lists that we have started to see pop up here and there, it's apparent that his draft stock actually may be slipping further and further down. This is because if you've been paying attention to draft prospects over the past few years, you'll recognize that when a guy starts to slip in rankings around the January mark of the year, there's usually a certain level of gravity that gets applied, and the guy ends up slipping further and further down. But for this case right here, there are still many people who think and strongly believe that this player should be the second overall pick in this year's draft. So let's head over to the USNTDP and talk about one of the youngest players in this year's selection of guys, Cole Eiserman. And firstly, get semantics out of the way. No, his name is not Eiserman like Steve Eiserman. It's pronounced the same, but it's spelt differently. But when it comes to Eiserman and his overall profile, he is a 17-year-old, August 29th, 2006 born, left wing, 6 feet, left-handed guy, 196 pounds. Now, because of the birth date being so late, this is a player who, if he was born like 2.5 weeks later, he wouldn't have been eligible for the 2024 NHL draft. He would have been eligible for 2025 instead. However, being eligible in this year's class, Eiserman is the consolidated ranked second overall prospect according to Elite Prospects. They themselves have Eiserman at number 3, Daily Faceoff has him at 2, The Hockey News at number 2, TSN and Bob McKenzie at 2, Craig Button has him at 2, Smart Scouting at 3, then you have McKeans and Dauber who each have him at 5th overall, and then NHL Central Scouting who actually have him at 8th overall amongst North American skaters. We'll get to that a little bit further as the video goes on, but for Cole Eiserman right now, some are super high on him, others are not so much. What makes him special though, and why he is ranked to go in the second overall spot by many outlets, is the fact that this is the best NTDP goal scorer this program has seen since Cole Caulfield pretty much. If you remember the Cole Caulfield conversation back when this guy was a draft eligible player, sure, he may be slumping a little bit nowadays with the Montreal Canadiens in the NHL, but back in the 2018-19 draft season, Cole Caulfield broke the NTDP's all-time record for both all-time goals and goals in a season. And Eiserman, who coincidentally is also first named Cole, has 32 goals in 30 games played this year with the NTDP, 53 total points as well. He's got a 67-point and 49-goal pace. However, you could go out there and say that when it comes to a lot of these records, he has actually slowed down a little bit from his year last season. Last year, as an underage player playing at 16 years old for most of the year with the NTDP's U18 team, he had 26 goals in 20 games played then. So the fact that this year he's at 32 goals in 30 games, it's actually a little bit of a decline. Even though, if you take a look at the all-time records in the NTDP's history right now, Eiserman is second in total goals in the history of the program behind Cole Caulfield. He's got 101 in 92 games played. There are, about 12 games left for Eiserman to catch Cole Caulfield in overall goals. I don't think he does it personally, but this is still a guy who is at that level and pretty much in that same territory of goal scorer, maybe just as a -1. And then for all-time records in goals, I mean, Caulfield in his 17-year-old year had 72 goals in 64 games played. There's a lot of work for Eiserman to do if he wants to catch up to that. But for now, it's easy to see the skill set that he possesses just based off of the numbers. If you want to go over the scouting report, this is what Dauber goes out there and talks about in regards to Eiserman. It's no secret that he has the best shot in the 2024 draft class. It's powerful, accurate, and given time and space is nearly guaranteed to be a given goal. Eiserman has found particular success on the power play, where he can take full advantage of the extra ice to punish any PK unit that doesn't give him his due respect. This alone is likely to see him land quite high on draft day, as his release is NHL ready. Seeing Eiserman playing triggerman on an NHL team's first power play is not far. However, and this is where you get into the other concerns, when you zoom away from his core strength, Eiserman carries with him a few key flaws. Particularly, he's got a lot of work to do in his skating. While effective off the rush and in odd man opportunities, he lacks the edge work and explosiveness to create separation from defenders who focus on him. His weak stride also doesn't make him much for a forechecking threat and far too often leaves him behind the play, which leads to penalties taken. Eiserman, his playmaking ability is currently underutilized as pucks tend to end up behind the net or frozen shortly after receiving a puck. Going forward, he'll need to develop some extra layers to his game in some way, whether by improving his passing game, skating, or defensive ability. Eiserman needs to evolve his game to match his current reputation as an elite-level prospect. Fortunately, he has plenty of time to do so. This was written by David Sod, and back when this scouting report was written, Eiserman was ranked 5th overall in the rankings. Now, if you wanted to talk about these concerns, this is why, if you take a look at some of the recent lists, NHL Central Scouting had Eiserman ranked as their 8th overall North American skater. And you also had Sam Constantino go out there in his recent January edition of the 2024 NHL Draft Prospect Rankings for Sportsnet, list Eiserman at 8th overall too. This is what the scouting report says on this website here. Still operating at a goal per game pace midseason, however, his defensive play and play away from the puck are the areas of concern. Now, even though there are some conversations to be had negatively about the way Eiserman plays off the puck and his playmaking, this is where we go into the defense. I want to turn your attention to Sammy Terpak. Sam used to do work for Dobber Prospects. They write for Oh My Hockey now and the Slovak hockey outlet Sportnet. He had a tweet thread the other day that I thought was really interesting and actually lends itself well to this conversation. This is from January 12th, so just 2 days ago. I'm going to be honest, Terpak says, this entire Cole Eiserman hate, let's call it what it is absolutely unwarranted. Here's why. Sure, he is not the best player off the puck. Sure, Eiserman is not that good defensively. And sure, he's not that good of a playmaker. He's 3rd in assists on the USNTDP. But consider these before you put any judgments out. He's one of the best goal scorers in NTDP history. He's the best goal scorer of the last few drafts. Bedard excluded. Duh. Implication here is that he's a better goal scorer than Matvei Mishkov. Eiserman has also not had an instance of a season tournament under a goal per game rate in his entire life since the Brick Invitational tournament at 9 years of age. And only Mike Bossy and Pat LaFontaine pulled that off ever in NHL history, and not even Gretzky, Lemieux, or Messier did that. It's hard to do. And that is actually a correct stat. If you go over to Eiserman and his individual lists of things that he's done in the past, every single tournament that he has been a part of, he has been over a goal a game, both internationally and in terms of just regular old hockey tournaments. He has always stepped up when the going is at its most important. Between U17 and U18 programs in their draft -1 years, Cole Eiserman broke Cole Caulfield's record for 16-year-old players, scoring 69 goals in one season, which was 15 higher than the next guy, Cole Caulfield. And this is verified too. If you go over to the NTDP's all-time history and you sort only by U17 players, last year's version of Cole Eiserman outscored Cole Caulfield by that exact 15-goal marker. Matthews did it at a U18 level only, as he was the OG record holder before Caulfield, so I excluded him from the thing above, but Eiserman's 1.3 goals per games played in his draft -1 at U18 levels is better than Austin Matthews' .916 goals per games played was. And so, statistically speaking, there are so many reasons to believe in Cole Eiserman being the best goal scorer out of this NTDP program, ever since Cole Caulfield, and maybe even surpassing him if you wanted to only take a look at U16 production. Sure, his draft year itself may not be in that exact same territory, but he's still over a goal a game, so there certainly is a lot to look forward to. And of course, there are U18 tournaments coming up as the year is going to go on, so that's going to add another layer of discussion to Eiserman and his draft stock. But for now, scouts are taking a look at his defensive play, they're taking a look at his lack of playmaking, they're taking a look at his off-puck play and saying, yeah, that's not good enough, and that's going to drop him down a few pegs in my draft rankings. But if you take a look at the good, there really is a profile here that emits the same aura of greatness as some other guys in the past. Does Cole Eiserman step into the NHL and become a 30-35 goal guy consistently? That's very well possible. Does he have a ceiling of maybe hitting 50 goals one day? I'd say that's also possible too. And considering that he's a lot bigger than Caulfield as well, there could very well be a world where this guy is a top 5 pick and nobody bats an eye. But at the end of the day, this is the best shooter, the best shot, and the best goal scorer in the 2024 draft. His name is Cole Eiserman, and I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I hope you enjoyed this Vrishaj 9, and Bye.